Thanks for tuning into another talk here at the Product Led Festival. Hope you're enjoying the event so far, because we've got even more juicy knowledge and insights from product-led pioneers heading your way. Remember to have your questions ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Sit back and enjoy.
My name is Muna Oladipo, and I am the Senior Vice President of Product Design and Engineering at Kickstarter. We're going to be chatting today about the qualities that make up a strong product leader. When working on my thoughts for today, I found myself really thinking about how much I valued my team. And to me, a quality of having of being a strong leader is to have a solid team around them. So not to say that I'm the best product leader out there, but I did think it's an interesting correlation. I found this talk to be very retrospective, so I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed writing it. So product management. I bet if we were to poll the room to see what our definitions of product management would be, I would get a different answer from each person. As such, navigating a product management career can be equally ambiguous and at times frustrating. The way that we define a product role at one organization is likely very different from another. I think about the number of people I know who get stuck in a senior product manager role, unable to really make the transition to being a leader. In the roles of APM or associate PM, product manager, senior product manager, you can really keep doing what you've been doing with a deeper level of expertise and execution over time. But as a product leader, you need to really start flexing that strategic muscle as it pertains to your product organization. When I first moved into product leadership, candidly, I didn't know where to start. I was so used to being an individual contributor and getting my own work done. I didn't have examples of managers to pull from who were really those shining examples of what I wanted to be in management or leadership. So by no means am I the perfect leader today. I acknowledge that every day comes growth and opportunity to learn, and I appreciate those as they come. So to work our way into understanding the anatomy of a strong product leader, we first need to make a quick stop in the foundation of understanding what a product manager is versus a product leader. So when I say product leader, I generally define this as being one of these titles: a chief product officer, vice president of product, a head of product, a director of product, a product team leader, a group PM. It's important that if you are in one of these roles, you recognize yourself as a product leader. The outcomes and success of your teams are really defined by what you do and don't do in your capacity. So let's go into a few differences. In the first scenario here, the product manager, you're focused in the depth of a specific product area versus the product leader who is now looking across multiple layers of product work. Each type of product problem has its own process, a measure of success, and execution steps. As you start out in your career, you tend to grow in expertise, whether it's feature development, growth, scaling products, or product market fit. At times, we as product folks do not realize that there are fundamentally different types of product work. Because of this, we tend to force our old skills in new places. To be a successful product leader, you'll need to have knowledge across all the different types of product areas to understand how to lead your teams to work on the right problems or apply the right skills at the right time, without you yourself having to get stuck in the weeds. In the second scenario, the product manager is focusing on doing just their job well, whereas a product leader is now focused on responsibly coaching others to be good at their jobs. As you think about making that jump, you're now going from being really good and confident in your own job and how you do it to now having to train others how to be as good, if not better than you at the job. Your value is no longer being evaluated on your personal output, but rather the total performance of your team. The common misstep a lot of leaders make here is that they keep the most important projects for themselves. They feel confident in their ability to execute, and they feel that's important, so they'll just do it. I know that I've done this in the past multiple times. And in retrospect, really, you're taking away, or I took away, opportunities from my direct reports to really learn and grow. I got myself stuck in the weeds where I could have been working alongside someone else. I broke communication because I was just heads down getting it done. I wasn't sharing my approach or helping them learn how to do it themselves. There's importance in delegating activities and important work so that you don't have to do everything and you can trust that your team is capable of doing it too. In this third scenario, as product manager, You're working within your current resource constraints to solve problems, whereas a product leader is now focused on allocating resources and influencing others. Early on in your product career, you're oftentimes focusing on just, again, getting your work done. You're working on things that are within your own remit, and likely you yourself have the ability to change. As you then move over to being a product leader, you now are working across a number of issues. Oftentimes, those issues are coming at the same time. You now have to move from solving those problems with just your resources that are in front of you to now influencing others within your organization to help solve problems that are directly outside of the span of your control. This can be hard because, again, you're not being judged on your personal success. So thinking about it, if a product team releases an individual feature or and the customers loved it, or the team comes up with a great idea, it may not be directly tied to something that you did. Maybe as a product leader, you help to identify the right problem, or you help them obtain the right resources, or maybe you help them find an approach. You're working on flexing the skill of influence across the organization more broadly. So you'll have to deal with different audiences. You'll have to think about how you communicate, because your goal is to communicate the same thing in different ways that others can understand. So now, rather figuring out how to approach a problem with the hammer and nails that you have, you'll need to figure out how to identify an approach towards a problem, irrespective of the tools and resources that you may have on hand. Next on the journey to identifying the traits of a strong leader, I want to take you to take a quick second, to differentiate between the terms management and leadership more generally. To start, managers have the primary responsibility of coaching and staffing. If you're a newer manager, you're likely spending something like maybe 75% of your time coaching and managing your direct reports. Coaching is an important component to being a good manager. The more time you spend here, the better outcome for your team and yourself, I promise, as your direct reports can now leverage the skills you are sharing with them to now build and drive their own teams forward. I can think of all the times I've personally stumbled throughout my product career in management as I figured out what needs to be done. Product is so new, we're all learning to do it well. In retrospect, as I've moved into management, I know I didn't spend enough time coaching my direct reports. I still operated as an individual contributor, oftentimes not carving out enough time to build and share my direct reports. I understand now that good management is really defined about how well you can coach. As a people manager, you'll soon realize that the people become your product. So looking now into leadership, effective leadership is centering around building a vision that can help guide change. While managers are focusing on coordinating the actions and tactical processes of teams, the leader is looking ahead to find ways to align the team and influence them. Less time is being spent in people management at this point. You want to make sure you hire good people to help cascade your beautiful thoughts and juicy ideas. Your goal is to provide them with sufficient context to help make smart decisions. I get a good chuckle from this quote because every time I read it, I really feel it in my heart. I can't tell you the number of times where I'm like, I come up with these ideas. I'm like, people are going to love this. I share it with the team and it blows up in my face. Being a leader, you have to be okay with everyone not agreeing or being happy with your direction. Rather, your focus should be in being honest and transparent around your decision making, communicating the why behind what you are saying. So now let's dive into the juicy bits. Let's talk about the qualities or the anatomy of what makes a strong leader. We're going to dive into 3 qualities today. 1, that they design, build, and nurture a team. 2, that they drive outcomes, strategies, and tools. And 3, that they drive cross-functional collaboration. So at a high level, great leaders are building highly functional teams, and they're surrounding themselves with exceptional talent in key disciplines from engineering to user experience, insights, and marketing. They are making specific choices about the structure and evolution of their product team. Understandably, the skills a product leader may need to offer a larger mature organization as compared to a startup are quite different. At a large mature company, a leader may need to navigate complex organization. They're managing the product role in the context potentially of a broader product portfolio. And maybe they're working with a more entrenched or technology or marketing organization that may be more resistant to change. While a startup Maybe the product leader has the flexibility to innovate without constraints of legacy products or multiple company agendas at play. However, it's important to realize that generally the basic orientation of the product leader is largely the same. Product leaders may need to prioritize the different stages of development, but the core capabilities are similar. So to build a strong product organization, you have to have the right number of product managers to support the company's initiatives. The product leader should be accountable for determining how many PMs are needed. Generally, you can do this by using ratios. You can look at how many people there are on the team other than the product manager. So including engineers, designers, DevOps, researchers, etc. You want to line this up against the number of PMs you have. It tends to be the case that product managers will become overwhelmed around a ratio of 9-to-1 or 10-to-1. So if you're not doing this right, your product managers will struggle with the tactical short-term deliverables. So you'll start to see, user stories, sales needs, sprint planning, backlog grooming, support requests, stand-ups, acceptance testing, all these items will start to maybe fall in quality. These product managers may start to cut corners, usually around like customer validation or product strategy. Your team starts to miss deadlines or take shortcuts. You need to spend time understanding what's the root cause. The product leader, is accountable for aligning the product team towards product segments or markets. So understanding how best to divide work across a product team can oftentimes be seen as an art. As a product leader, you're responsible for determining your team's topology. Derived from the product vision and product platform architecture, you should understand how best to structure your product teams. To maximize for a sense of ownership, you will want to communicate what each team is responsible for and how they relate to one another. This will help to make strides towards alignment. You want to be able to communicate your organizing principle. If you're not doing this, you will start to see teams maybe squabble because they feel like people are stepping into their areas of work, their domains. Sometimes you see teams doing duplicate work. When bugs come in, there's no clear ownership. My recommendation here, or the things that I'd like to do here, is I like to just take a beat. I like to map out how my teams align towards that vision and architecture and determine how best to address or adjust it to address the issues that we're seeing. Next is developing a cohesive hiring strategy. So there's a lot of generic advice out there on how to hire good product managers. They'd say for empathy and enthusiasm and experience. Maybe it's the subject matter expertise or their coding skills. It's oftentimes, in my opinion, unhelpful, and it can overgeneralize from narrow experiences that the writer may have. Really, the question you need to focus around is, what does your team and company need? Where is your product today? Where does it need to go tomorrow? What does your strategy call for? Maybe you have a junior mix of folks on your team, maybe some mid-level, and you want to bring in more senior PMs to help mentor and develop your team. Maybe you have a number of seasoned members on your team and you want to start thinking about retention as a concern. So you need to invest in bringing in more junior members to ensure that you have a new wave of PMs learning the ropes across your team. Perhaps your product vision calls for machine learning in 3 to 5 years and you have no one in your team to begin a discovery. Really, there are a number of ways to approach this, but it really comes down to what's your area of focus. If you're not doing this right, you may start to see attrition in your teams. Either people are not feeling challenged and they're not growing in the right way. Senior folks want opportunities to mentor and lead. Junior folks want the opportunity to be mentored and led. Maybe more junior folks in your team need more time from you, and so they're pulling you into the weeds. You want to make sure at that point that you're hiring people that can maybe help step in and build some strength with them there. That takes us nicely to coaching and mentorship. So product management is a craft. We are building judgment and skills and understanding of frameworks over time. We develop those product reflexes by just doing. These are things that we've learned over time and experience. So it would be very hard to point to a single workshop or certificate to say that, this single thing will turn you into a product manager. More junior folks on our team are going to need, again, coaching and mentoring. You want to try to block out some amount of time each week for the newer person on your team to really help critique their work, share cross-functional feedback, coach on messaging and presentation style. You want to help them pick templates and metrics. If you can't afford to do this, then you need to hire someone, again, who can help really take that responsibility on formally. If you're not doing this right, you'll see a small number of mistakes start to trickle out. You may start to be inclined to maybe do it on your own instead of carving out that time to coach. This one's a little bit harder to get to because you can't directly ask a junior person all the time what they need from you because oftentimes they don't know what to ask. Next, moving on to driving outcomes, strategies, and tools. So now we have a team and want to ensure that we have them set up for success. So some product managers will have a strong bias towards certain frameworks or against certain frameworks, tools, and processes. As product leaders, we have to create just enough structure and common practice to get work done without losing sight of the various activities that are so important. We want our product leader to be champions of outcomes that are based on real customer value. So most product teams are very focused on output. They want to hit committed dates, and these dates generally are attached to maybe unquantified customer behavior value. As product leaders, our goal is to push for outcomes which actually reflect our user value. So each product manager should ask themselves how this feature will increase funnel conversion or generate paid transactions or whatever your organizational perceived value is. That's what you're shooting for. If you're not doing this right, likely your teams are kicking off projects without clear success metrics. If they have those metrics, maybe they don't really truly understand how it aligns to value creation. Maybe your teams are pushing towards meaningless deadlines, and once they're released, they have no real true follow-up because they don't understand how it equates to actual value. You want your leader to have a portfolio level strategy. So this one's important. Each product manager on our team may be responsible for a separate piece of the product line, and each, fingers crossed, is making good local decisions on how to improve customer satisfaction, revenue, quality, performance of their products. As a product leader, you need to ensure that there is a coherent strategy across the product lines, making sure that all the pieces fit together when you're solving for customer problems and planning for that resource allocation. Naturally, there are going to be trade-offs, and you want to ensure that those trade-offs, when you zoom out, make sense. So if you're not doing this right, your team likely are not all driving the same direction. Maybe they're struggling to understand priorities and where to make trade-offs, and they have to pull you into every conversation. When you're finding that your teams are delivering maybe features and products that are not working well together, this could be due to a lack of a coherent strategy. Next, you want to make sure that they have an approach for the shared tools and processes. So our product teams need a minimum set of approaches, workflows, and tools. Every project cannot generate a new process or way of handling. Teams need to align around what they're going to use to track tickets, manage roadmaps, success tracking, etc. There's a fine line you will have to walk here in establishing that balance between enforcing group-wide standards and giving teams freedom to pick their own tools. It's important to recognize that tools don't solve organizational or strategic issues. Oftentimes, adding too much process will just frustrate stakeholders who will then find another path. If you're not doing this right, you have more tools than people likely, and your team doesn't know which tools to leverage for what processes, or maybe people are just skipping your tools altogether and escalating their requests directly to your CEO. Our third quality here is ensuring that the product leader is growing cross-functional collaboration. So one of the most interesting things about being a product manager is that funny position you're in where you're given a lot of responsibility with very little authority. You have to somehow convince marketing, engineering, sales, customer success, finance, legal, design, and more to move in a direction that you need them to move in. The product leader's role is to ensure that cohesive, collaborative spirit to support you as a product manager when you need to now go engage with those departments. So as a product leader, you want to be sure that you're designing your team and working groups in a very meaningful way. So you want to be mindful of how you structure effective teams to tackle problems within the organization. Sometimes my teams will come across a new problem that needs a deeper dive. I'll peel off a small cross-functional group to dive into a problem versus dumping maybe all 20 people who are in the room all at the same time discovery. For this group to be successful, really making sure that they have clarity around their purpose, whether it's to pull more insights, come up with key findings, pull together recommendations, whatever this may be, being sure that to really set the scope for the team. Sometimes I want to be opportunistic in my working group, so I'll have it, go ongoing for some period of time, and the individuals are focused maybe on like our code base or taking a deeper dive on the customer segment over some period of time. Once this work is done, or if it's ongoing as the work is continuing, it's important for regular share outs within the organization so people don't have FOMO or fear of missing out. If you're not doing this right, everyone likely feels like they have to be in the room, be a part of the conversation. And so you're having to pull all 20 people in the room. The conversations are circular with no clear direction or finding. Or you create the space for a group and they come back to you with nothing meaningful because the questions you were looking to have answered weren't clear to them. Next, the product leader should work to build cross-functional trust and psychological safety. So a large part of your role as a product leader or as a leader is finding ways to encourage your team to take risks, to connect technical work with user outcome, to collectively unpack hard problems, to depend on each other. Part of being a strong product leader is also creating the safe space for people to be okay with failure. They have to trust that if they fail, things will be okay. We can't say fail fast and then freak out when they actually do fail. As we coach PMs to take risks, we should also have them coach their teams to be comfortable taking risks. Creating the safe space to inspire problem solving is really going to be a key to innovation. If you're not doing this right, your team likely has to come to you before taking any meaningful steps. If they don't come to you, maybe you tend to see them take incremental steps in any direction. And so you really want to just understand why people maybe are afraid of failure or taking these risks. There's a lot of power in repetition, and so frequent sharing of plans, goals, strategies, and roles are important. Unlike your product management team, most other teams in an organization do not spend a lot of time staring at roadmaps and KPIs. They can quickly forget what is being worked on, why it's being worked on, and for whom. Our role as product leaders is to constantly be selling what is coming next and why, how this aligns to company-wide goals, and how product managers add value. You want to clarify the importance of roles and why you have people on teams, and really remind people why roles exist over time, because when you're not in a room, people can know who to go to ask a question or find information. If you're not doing this right, if you're not in the room, your counterparts aren't able to speak to what the team is working on and why, or who people are and the value they serve in an organization. So we talked about a lot today. We started today by talking about the differences between a product manager and a product leader, and understood that it really comes down to scope and remit of responsibility. Moving into the product leadership role, you need to be able to focus less on your own individual contribution to now how you can amplify your impact through your team. Now we move to talk about the three qualities that make up a strong product leader. We started with designing, building, and nurturing a team. There is no universal best practice or admired company to copy from. There's no cut and paste here. You need to weigh various approaches, match one to your current company situation, and adapt as conditions change. Next, then we spoke about the product leader driving outcomes, strategies, tools. Your product team needs clear, actionable goals and relevant frameworks to succeed. Our job as product leaders is to make sure these things exist for our teams. We have to establish just enough common tooling and practice to get the work done without encouraging extra bureaucracy and blind adherence to procedure. Finally, I spoke about the need for a product leader to grow cross-functional collaboration. This one is key because product is generally in the center of everything. Improving collaboration across teams will take time and energy, but as product leaders, we have to create that space so that teams can meaningfully work together. So in conclusion, the path to leadership is not a clear one. There is no fast track to an overnight transformation. However, with determination, awareness, passion, and guidance from others, you can and will be successful. Many of you know and understand dysfunction starts from the top, whether there are misaligned goals, badly selected business models, and even sometimes adversarial relationships on the executive team. If you are at the top organization as a product leader, you're no longer thinking about managing a single product line. You are focused on that systematical thinking about how you can make your team successful in meeting customer needs and driving business impact. With that, I say thank you for your time today.